Now, Ghana no longer eligible to receive foreign assistance from the United States under the Millennium Challenge Compact amid debt disputes. A look at the international politics and the diplomatic role, plus the impact on Ghana's development agenda. And joining me in studio is Dr. Nana Yamriku, international relations expert. Doc, thank you for making it into the studio this morning. So, for many people or for viewers watching today, let us understand really, or how can you explain in very plain terms what it means for Ghana not to be receiving under the MCC?
Right. Good morning to you, and good morning to your viewers. Ghana is not being in the good books of US in this Donald Trump second administration. And I wouldn't want to say it's just peculiar to Ghana. Ghana is not an outlier, because we see a Trump administration that is really resetting, recalibrating US's foreign policy and selling it out there. And so the US that we used to consider it as a charitable state, you know, is no longer playing that ball again, because the president is seeking to doing things differently. And so if you look at the things that very close allies to the US have all been slapped with these kind of tariffs or fines one way or the other. Canada is taking its own share, Japan, even the European Union. What is happening in the US now, and in particular reference to Ghana, is not anything so peculiar. You would recall that the US aid that gives Ghana an amount to the tune of $160 million has also been taken off, the table. Ghana used to enjoy what you call AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which allowed Ghana and some other African countries to send goods to the US, with no tariffs or with a very, least amount of tariffs. With this 10% and then 15% slap of tariff on Ghana, it means that we are no longer enjoying that kind of, economic privilege. Now, the Millennium Challenge Compact. So in US, we have what we call presidential initiative development programs. So every president that comes has his own initiative program. So It was under President Clinton that AGOA came into being. Under President Bush, we had what they call the Millennium Challenge Compact, and then what we call PEPFAR, Presidential Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. Now, with the coming of President Trump, he initiated what we call building better under utilization of resources. What Trump is doing is seeking to recalibrate US's foreign policy from aid to trade.
Okay. And
so anything that is serving as a choke on US's coffers, Trump is seeking to release that and then return those monies into developing US. And so US aid, for instance, was considered as something that is putting a stranglehold on US's, budgetary expenditure. And so taking those monies and investing it in the United States. The idea with the Millennium Challenge Compact, which was the implementation started in 2006 to 2012. That was the first compact when President Kufuor was the president. And we saw a number of initiative or development projects take place under the MCCs in terms of infrastructure, in terms of energy, in terms of transportation, in terms of health. These are monies that go into these sections. The second chunk of it was supposed to be disbursed between 2016 to 2022. And the current one that we are expecting is what the Trump administration is saying, that Ghana is going to be taken off that list. And it's a substantial amount of money. Right. It runs into $400 million of dollars. The idea is that, according to what we are learning, the Trump administration believes that Ghana is defaulting on some debt or loans that we owe American businesses in the country and some bilateral financial arrangement. And so if we are going through debt structure and we are making some interest on the revenues that we are generating, then they are better off diverting those MCCs that they give to us into other areas. And so because of these things, because of these debts that are owed American businesses, and because of these financial arrangement between us and US that we are not obligating, they are truncating these MCCs to Ghana. And so there are a lot of, these are huge amounts of money, considering that US aid is no longer coming, and considering that this is also taken off the table. It's really a big deal for the country. So, this is just a brief...
It's good that you are giving a bit more, some plain explanation to it. Now, under the US law, especially 7012, does it hinge on this aid under the Millennium Challenge Compact? does it hinge on some conditions, like the debt restructuring, or every president comes and then they impute their own conditions on it?
So it's a president's special initiative, right? It is not something approved by Congress.
Okay.
It is usually, and that is why it is very easy for President Trump to not to follow through with it. There's an executive order, and that is it. Except that it has been part of U.S.'s soft power. So every state or every president that comes into the Oval Office try as much as possible to modify it, but keep the course running. But we are seeing a president that has a different policy or foreign policy orientation altogether. It's all about making America great again. And so he is saying that this time around, I'm not going to dish out resources to countries like other presidents, used to do. I'd rather invest these monies back into the country, into U.S. And there are a lot of people that are saying that what is happening to Ghana now, and I beg to differ, is because of the diplomatic public outburst between our foreign minister and then the U.S. Republican Senate, Jim Risch,
yes.
Concerning how Ghana is supposed to pay its debt and the banter. I would have wished that this was done quietly, behind doors. Because this is the kind of administration you don't want to be engaging publicly on that level. You must understand that Trump never forgives. He can go down to the very, to the wire. So I think, but that is just, on the side. I think
you don't think that could be a major impact?
Well, like I'm saying, I wish things were done differently, and I think we've learned our lesson. Going forward, quiet diplomacy, because at the end of the day, you need something from them. I wish we were an independent state to the extent that we wouldn't need any help from any major power. But we are not pursuing an isolationist policy. We are not living as an island. At some point in time, you need somebody's help, and especially this is the U.S. I've always said that the United States coughs and the world catches cold. So I would have wished that things were done differently, between us and them. But I also think that going forward, you must understand that there are political and economic risk. In fact, by this time, Ghana should have learned a lot of lessons. Because it appears every 2 to 3 years, something unexpected happens to our economy because of the global international system or geopolitics. It was COVID, and we saw how COVID was devastating to Ghana's economy. And then we move on to COVID, it became the Israel-Iran war. In fact, before that was the Russo-Ukraine war. And each of them have had major consequences on our politics and our economics. And now Trump came to power, we saw U.S. aid. We saw the tariffs he's implemented. We saw the visa, arrangement. And now we are seeing this MCC compact that is, happening.
So Doug, what do you say to people who say that this is just a procedural break, where if we then restructure our debts properly, you can get back onto it? But I'm also learning from you that it is how the president feels at a particular time. How do I balance this two? Which one should I run with? That's
an interesting question. But there is something about Trump that everybody has realized, and people are gathering around him. And I've said it here before, that Trump usually wants an apple, but he shakes down the whole apple farm so that when he gets you, he winds you down to the very apple that you want. Trump is a transactional pragmatist. If you know him, he's a deal breaker.
What does that mean?
What it means, transactional pragmatist means that he wants something, he wants you to give him something for something. He always wants to make deal. And that means that he is coming with something he needs. If you're able to meet him halfway and give him something, if you bring something to the table, he gives you a chair. And so if he's talking about debt restructuring, and that is what, once again, that is what the foreign minister of Ghana, Honorable Kujata Blaka, was in the state to do. Because he was there with the deputy director of the foreign ministry. He was there to the then acting U.S. ambassador, Ghana ambassador to U.S. as a new administration,
right,
to look at debt, to look at the financial arrangement between us and them, issues concerning regional security, issues concerning this visa arrangement. So it was all in order for him to do that as a new government. And then when he had gone to meet the U.S. Undersecretary for Political Affairs, Alison Hooker, in line with some of these debts, arrangements, the U.S. Republican to Senate, the Financial Committee Relations, the chairperson in Senate, who was a Republican, wrote those untoward words, tweeted those untoward words, and I think that infuriated, that got under the skin of Honorable Kujata Blaka, and rightly so, he fired on behalf of Ghana as a sovereign state. But it came back to what I was saying, that you know, there's a lot of nuances concerning diplomacy. Sometimes these public diplomacy don't really yield. You know, it is, you know, doing things quietly, but you're showing working for it. Because the Trump administration is not really one that you want. Look, South Africa.
Right.
Cyril Ramaphosa was in South Africa, you know, and we saw what happened. And we thought that maybe something good will come out of what has happened. But just a few months later, they are also suffering from the same tariffs that other countries are suffering from.
Well, again, still help me understand better, which means that even if the foreign minister didn't have that outburst, or if they did something, if they did it quite differently, you know, where we'll not know that there was some outburst between him and the senator as well, Trump could still have decided that, well, I am not dishing out anything under this MCC. Especially because though we're not the same country, it's not just us, they are different countries. And if you look at it, every country and the reason that they purport, for example, Burkina Faso, do you think that the reason why US will withdraw ours will be the same reason why the US will withdraw for Burkina?
Yeah,
what are the nuances? Which is, there's nothing you can do about it all.
No, I think there is. I mean, once again, I keep saying that Ghana is not an outlier. We are a product of circumstance. We are a product of US's foreign policies across the globe. But I think that, look, take some countries, for instance. Was it Colombia? At the instance of the Trump administration, when he wanted to use Colombia, I mean, wanted to transport, or how do you call it, send back illegal residents from Colombia and US, and the Colombian president refused. It became a banter publicly. It was a huge public outcry outburst between the two of them. But in the end, when Trump threatened with these 50% tariffs on goods from Colombia coming to US, immediately the man had to rethink how he wanted to take on Trump.
Yes.
And Trump sees this kind of things as victory. He always wants to be seen as saving face and presenting this machoism, this winner personality or persona to the people. So is there something that we can do? So as much as he has a US foreign policy, those that are able to come around and negotiate with him are able to get some waivers of a sort.
Yeah.
And that is why when he gives you the tariff, when he imposes the tariffs or he imposes the visa ban on you, he tells you that within 2 months, in the case of Ghana, we were given, I mean, this is not as it happened concerning the visa.
Right, yeah.
We were given 2 months, 60 days window opportunity to try to engage the Trump administration, saying that, look, there is a 15% threshold of visa overstays. When you are getting close to it and you are moving above it, then we are going to punish you in terms of visa issuing. So what have you done so far about these things? How have you created a database so that people that have overstayed are issued travel documents? Because in international law, and that is why the US is using third-party state. Okay. Ordinarily, if I'm Ghanaian and I overstay my visa in the US, I'm supposed to be sent back to where? Ghana. But when your passport is expired and you don't have travel document, the law does not permit the US government to bring you back to Ghana. So the Ghanaian government must then create a database and issue travel documents to all those who have overstayed their visas for them to be sent back. Governments who are not able or willing to do that, Trump is saying that when we get your citizens, especially those that are hardened criminal, we will send them to a third country. We won't bring them to Ghana.
Right.
So countries like Rwanda, was it Eswatini? And I think one other country, which is Uganda, they are now becoming third parties. You know, so those countries that are able to meet President Trump halfway and address the issues that are very concern or critical to the U.S., you know, the Trump administration has, you know, a way of lowering things down.
That's interesting. What does it look like for us? Tell us, first of all, the practical implications for us as a country, and if there's a way out for us. Well,
I think that, look, regardless of how you want to look at it, there are dire implications involved. Even the US aid that was $160 million short, you know, of resources that are available to us has certain implications. And Ghana, the current Mahama administration had to find a way, you know, to replace that amount. But this is a huge sum of money. I hear it's almost $400 to $500 million. And it goes into what you call the Ghana Compact, the Ghana Energy Compact, which is an energy, dimension of the Millennium Challenge Compact. Huge sum of money that is going into the powering of the country.
Yes.
In terms of road construction, in terms of health, you know. So if these monies are not coming, what it means is that there is some lacuna, there is some gap somewhere that the government must already try to tighten its coffers. Already, you know how stressful the economy is, and things are beginning to get better. So what it means is that there is a gap. there is some vacuum that the government must try to find resources. I'm hoping that there is MIDA. MIDA is it MIDA? Yes, the branch or the agency that is responsible for this development assistance. Maybe they can begin to explore elsewhere.
Elsewhere where?
Well, I'm hoping that we'll probably have some shocks, some backup elsewhere. Otherwise, this will be very, very...
Does this suggest that the door is shut completely?
I don't think so.
For international negotiations, and particularly for us and the U.S.?
No, I don't think so.
We cannot trigger any negotiations?
I think we can, and that is one of the means. But you see, the thing is that we must find a way to be sufficient. And I understand, and I keep saying that the Trump presidency is usually bad news for Africa, but it's also very good news. Because what it means is that we are beginning to realize that we cannot be dependent on external benevolency. At some point, true independence means taking care of yourself without having to depend on somebody for survival. And so once these shocks, these assistance we are beginning to see how vulnerable we are as a people. Going forward, we begin to find ways, to fill in these gaps so that we don't go, begging. So I think that it's practical. The practical relevance of this is how we can begin to take care of ourselves, in the years coming.
With the conversation hinging nearly on debt restructuring, I want to get clarity, really. Do you think that if we did that, we'll still be able to get... And I ask this because of the way it is very highly dependent on the president, because it's their initiative at a particular time. If indeed, because it looks as though the conversation on the restructuring is coming more stronger and more nuanced than the others, of course, for international law, other things are in the background, but the one that is in the forefront is the debt restructuring. If we do,
I have said that Trump wants, it's a quid pro quo, right? So the issue about the debt restructuring is not ultimately to service all the debt.
Yes.
Right, but to see some commitment of a sort, and I know Ghana has serviced some part of the debt.
Is it to the U.S. or for the China? Because
to the U.S.
To the U.S.
So the anger is that you claim that you are going through difficult times, and you are going through debt restructuring, and so you've paused paying us, but you are servicing debt to China. Sometimes, look, they are also looking at what is happening, and that is why I say that. When you know all these things are happening, you don't go with this back and forth public banter. Because your hand is in somebody's mouth. You don't hit their head. You know what will happen. They will bite your fingers. So, look, I'm a Pan-Africanist. I am all for independence and sovereignty. But I think that we do that when you know that we are capable of holding our own. And so I think that if we go back to the negotiation table with the American government,
how will we start going back to this table? Is the table even available?
Well, I think we haven't. Look, Ghana has a very fantastic bilateral relation with the U.S. Look, the first African American or Black Nobel laureate was in Ghana, together with W.E.B. Du Bois. Ghana has been like a very wonderful hotspot for the American community, especially the African American community. And forget about that cultural relationship. Ghana is a very key ally to the United States. That is why I think that there is always that avenue. Look at Ghana and Nigeria. Probably Ghana is the most reliable ally of the U.S. in the West African sub-region. All the other countries are hotspots for political instability, relatively.
Right.
So Ghana is... we
have something we can go to the table with.
Offer, and these are the kind of leverages we need to be pulling. Of course, if you want to be established foothold, especially with the waning popularity of the West in the West African sub-region, Ghana offers that kind of hospitable environment, for the U.S. So these are things that we can leverage into letting them know. We have a very beautiful bilateral military arrangement with the U.S.
Okay.
So these are things that we can also, leverage when we have these kind of discussions, with them. And I'm hoping that we have a very capable Ministry of Foreign Affairs and a capable, minister. And I'm hoping that these are the kind of leverages that, he can pull.
Well, if you're watching, fear not yet, at least. We've been having a conversation with Dr. Nana-Yaw Miracle joining us, and he's an international relations expert. Dr. Nana-Yaw, thank you for joining us and bringing some clarity to this very clouded conversation that we've been having in the public discourse. You're watching the AM show. Please stay. you.